You're on with Jordan.
All right, I just had a real quick question for Jordan, kind of on the subject that you were talking about earlier, and I'll just preface it by saying I don't really have an emotional attachment either way on wherever the answer lies to this particular question. But there is a lot of discussion through a YouTube video and a Google video in particular, but it's of William Cooper reading from one of Jordan's books from way back in the day.
And it changed my life. From that, someone walked in and all of a sudden I was on General Hospital. For 3.5 years I played Laura Hart. I actually played Richard Simmons on General Hospital here.
And when he's reading it, he says that the stuff that Jordan is espousing is the teachings of the mystery religions, and particularly Freemasonry. And some of the other stuff that's on the video is some audio clips of Mr. Maxwell saying that he had one time laid in a king sarcophagus and was blessed by I think a committee or Kingite priest. And that he was also really good friends with Manly P. Hall, who is a known Freemason. And like I said, I don't really have an emotional investment either way. I don't really think that it matters too much on how I view Jordan's work. But rather than just hearing people's speculation and hearing chatter over the internet, I figured I'd take the opportunity to go straight to the source and just ask Jordan if he has ever been initiated into any kind of secret societies, and if he still is a member of any secret societies, if he ever was.
Yeah. Well, I think those are good questions, and I'm glad you brought them up. That gives me an opportunity to answer them in public. First of all, Manly P. Hall was a dear friend of mine. He was one of the most brilliant men that the world has ever known in any age and any time. An extraordinarily interesting, fascinating, and brilliant, spiritually minded man who was he was a Mason, but he never joined the Masons. He was given an honorary membership in the Masons because of this man's work and explaining all the ancient religions of the world. That doesn't make you a devil worshiper or evil because you're explaining religious history of the world. And so he was so incredibly well informed and well known around the world as a leading authority, as a historian, and he was so profoundly accurate and so impressive to the world at large of his work that the Masonic Order gave him a complimentary membership to honor him in his work. It wasn't like he went out and joined the Masons. So first of all, he wasn't a hardcore Mason who joined and was trying to overthrow the world. No, he was a brilliant and wonderful man that tried to as to where religions and concepts and philosophies had come from. Now he's been made to look like an evil, the evilarchy, because of people who are born-again Christians who have no idea in the world who the man was. And I know what that's like because I'm also being charged the same way. They don't know, the people who are calling me names do not know how I live. They do not know what my life has been like. They do not know my motives, what I've been through with my life to do my work. They have no idea, and it doesn't matter. Because Christians do not mind bearing false witness against their neighbor, coming out with all kinds of claims and libeling people's names in public, because it doesn't matter. It looks like maybe you are a Mason or you're a devil worshiper, and they call you names with no basis of proof about any of it. So yes, I was a very close friend with Manly P. Hall. I consider him to be one of the greatest teachers the world's ever known. I say that publicly because it's true. Now, second, what I said about being initiated. I've never been initiated, but I was 3 times. I was a speaker on an Egyptian tour. There's a company that does tours to Egypt, and they have speakers while they're in Egypt. And I was invited 3 different times by this company to be one of the many speakers to go to Egypt. So while in Egypt, the very first time, we were able to go into the pyramids. You can't always go into the pyramids. Sometimes they're open, sometimes they're not. But they opened it for us, and so we all went into the pyramid, and I went into the king's chamber. Well, there was a Chemite priest, which was one of the oldest priesthoods in Egypt, and he was very, very friendly, a very wonderful man who lived next door, an older gentleman that lived next door to where we were staying in Egypt. And he was friends with the people who were putting the event on, so he would come over and hang out with us and listen to the lectures. And then we asked him if he could get us into the pyramid, which he did. He made some phone calls, and they opened the pyramid for us. And so while we were in there, the old man, his name was Hakim, a dear person, a very dear man, old man, very, very knowledgeable about his country and the history of his country. And we talked to him, and he was explaining to us about the Chemite priesthood and how it was the oldest priesthood in Egypt, and how and there were initiations and prayers in the pyramid for people. And I asked him, I said, would you pray over me and the pyramid? He said, of course. And so I did. I laid inside the king's sarcophagus, and he did a prayer and from his religion, which is the Chemite religion. It's not devil worshippers and evil. It's an ancient religion of Egypt. And he prayed over me and asked God to protect me and guide me and protect my person. And I thanked him for that. And it was and I thought that was a very nice gesture that he would do that for me. So that does not necessarily mean I'm worshiping the devil and I'm a member of some evil occult. No, there's a bunch of young people and kids and children and families all around in the king's chamber when I was doing that. It wasn't like I was in there with a bunch of sadists and devil worshippers. And the old Chemite priest was a dear man, and he spent time with us explaining the old ancient religions, and that he was a priest. And I asked him if he would pray over me, because I believe in God, and I believe in the protection of the Holy Spirit on people. I believe that there is such a thing as a cosmic or spiritual presence in the universe that men have called God. And I honored this old man. I honor him and asked him, well, would you pray for me? And which he did. And so now some people have heard that I admitted in public. I don't see anything wrong with admitting it. I was in the Great Pyramid of Giza 3 times. And so from that, now we extrapolate from that I'm a part of some demonic child sacrifice, evil cult, and initiated into some evil Illuminati cult. That's ridiculous. It was, like I said, there was all kinds of people in there on the tour. And I was just a speaker on the tour. So, yeah, I was prayed upon, but I've asked other holy people to pray for me and pray and prayer for me. So I accept prayers from anyone because I believe God. I would say one thing else. God is too big for one religion. I believe that the divine one in the universe is far, far, far superior and far bigger than any one particular little cult or religion. I think the great God of the heavens is God over all mankind. All peoples and all races and peoples are the creation of the great God. So that's why I honor the Native Americans and the Aztecs and the Mayans and all the peoples of the world for their spiritual longings and their spiritual prayers. I don't see anything wrong with that. So,
well, I completely agree with you, Jordan. And it was because of one of your talks that changed my life completely. You said at one point in time, you've got to look beyond the gods of religion and say a prayer to the God that's above all of that, the true Creator.
That's exactly right.
And my life changed completely. And what people fail to realize, in my opinion, is that we need to know about the secret knowledge. It's a cult for a reason, like you said, because they don't want you to know about it, and we should put it out in the forefront.
Obviously. Look, at any time somebody tells you, my dad used to have, when I was a little kid, he had a drawer in his dresser, and I used to poke through everything. And my dad explained it to me one time in plain English. Don't ever go into that drawer. If I ever catch you going in that drawer, it's going to be the last thing you're ever going to do on this earth. Don't ever get near that drawer, and don't touch my personal things ever. And so I always wonder what's in the drawer. Well, I've got enough sense, even at a young age, I've got enough sense to know I'm not going to cross him. He's already let me know he doesn't want me touching it, and I already know what he's like if you cross him. So I'm not about to touch it. But that's the same kind of mentality when the church tells you that he'll have anything to do with this or that, and don't look at why don't you want me to read? I'm not saying that you should take part in occult sacrifices and occult religions. Obviously not. Obviously, you should stay away from that trash. But I have learned that there's a difference from learning about something as opposed to learning from it. I don't study the occult world to learn from it. I have studied the occult world to learn about it. And that's the problem today with Christianity especially. But with Christianity, no, if you talk about anything that has to do with the occult, you are obviously, on the face of it, you're obviously a devil worshiper, an evil, you're worshiping Satan. And I'm saying, my God, that's ludicrous.
Well,
no wonder the church looks so stupid to people.